my teen years was mostly finding my father like passed out, drugged up, all the in between. So middle school to high school, it was like I was constantly chasing this paternal figure.
My special guest, she's a good friend of mine. Her name is Conley. I've known Taylor the past couple years now. We've had the pleasure of working together. When I first met Taylor, we hit it off pretty quick. We saw each other in the gym, and we could quickly tell, it's not often that I see somebody that I would consider is all in as I am. And so I could immediately tell she was, and we got to know each other a little bit, and she ended up and we started to work together and everything like that. The more I discovered about Taylor, I realized what an inspirational person she was, the crazy journey she's had. She's had one of the most drastic transformations I've personally ever seen as far as an eating disorder goes, and to see what she's become now as a competitive bodybuilder, it's just been a huge inspiration for me. She's somebody, honestly, I'm very honored to know and to get to call my friend. So I'd like to introduce Taylor. And you want to go ahead and tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So I'm Taylor. I do compete in bodybuilding now. I'm a figure competer. So when I was 19 is when I first got diagnosed with an eating disorder, anorexic, and then I was also overworker outer. So like 19 to about 23 is
that an official term? An overworker
outer?
I
To
like
me
it.
it is.
I like it.
Who uses official terms?
Right.
And so that was probably one of the harder periods of my life. And then I had a daughter when I turned 24, and then between postpartum and then my eating disorder flare-up, it came right back. I grew up at Lake of the Ozarks, good old childhood. My mom is kind of like my first figure that I witnessed as that your body image is like a self-worth. My mom was always on the scale, constantly checking her weight. And being in the Midwest, you do a lot of like hearty meals. So it's always like eating good, gravy, mashed potatoes, all the things.
Comfort food.
Comfort food to the T.
Right.
And so always seeing her visibly get upset whenever the scale would go up or would not show what the number she wanted, it was my first indicator of body image and self-love. Mm-hmm. And so as a kid, I never really realized it until I got older. And then growing up, my father is an addict. And so my teen years was mostly finding my father like passed out, drugged up, all the in between. So middle school to high school, it was like I was constantly chasing this paternal figure that I never had. And then college happened, toxic boyfriend happened, eating disorder happened, and then I got pregnant with my daughter, who was like my miracle child. So I was told I could never have kids due to my eating disorder terrorizing my body. And so when I found out I was pregnant, I was 3.5 months pregnant. I was in my second trimester with my daughter, and she was the size of a large potato. So seeing that on a screen was probably the most surreal, terrifying moments of my life. Because then in there, I knew I was about to cater to a whole human. Mm-hmm. And then, so we were still in Missouri, and then we moved to Texas. And since being in Texas, my whole world has just changed.
No, when you say she was the size of a potato, she was obviously, her progression was not where it should have been at that time, or that's just the size?
Oh, no, yes, so she had limbs. So she wasn't just like, oh, you're pregnant. Your child has limbs. Like, it was like a whole thing. Like, right. It wasn't just like an embryo anymore. Like, she was actually like of size. And so obviously I was like drinking a lot in the early parts of my pregnancy, unfortunately. I had no idea I was pregnant. So we had to do all those tests and all the things as most invasive as we possibly could. Mm-hmm. But she was like healthy, normal, healthy, no issues. She came right at 40 weeks, like all was good.
Right.
So she was like my miracle.
Right. I would never, I've seen your daughter many times. I see her running around, smiling, acting crazy and all that. So I would never suspect that. Like, it's awesome to see like what she's grown into and all that. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
So in your journey, I mean, I know you've been through so much, and you just touched on some of it, but, with the eating disorder and, the bad relationships and all that, moving around, what would you say is like what was your rock bottom moment? What was your moment where you kind of knew in your life where it's like, all right, I can no longer live like this anymore. Like, I need to make some changes. Like, what was that moment? And then what was your like first step?
Golly, so I can say there's two of them. There's two pit rock bottoms. So my first one was when I was about 22. I was hospitalized for my eating disorder. I was weighing about 89 pounds, and I had to eat, I'll never forget, an oats and honey bar every 3 days. And so laying in that hospital room, they're like, listen, like, we got to do something. So if we don't do it now, like, your life is on the line. My kidneys were starting to shut down. Half of my liver was starting to shut down. So things were getting real quick before I could even, like, understand what was happening. And so coming out of that hospital stay, it was like a reality check. Like, I have to do something or there is nothing. My life is on the line.
Right.
So I tried to go to treatment, and for me, treatment didn't work. I went to treatment, and I learned really quickly how to maneuver and how to feed the eating disorder.
Right.
You put rocks in your hair. You do all these different techniques to try to make the scale for your text look bigger than it reality was.
So in treatment for eating disorder, they're weighing you?
Yes, but we don't get to see the weight. So we have to do weigh-ins with a gown on and completely naked.
And you would put rocks in your hair?
Yeah, so if you
Really?
put your hair in a bun sometimes, and you go outside, and they wouldn't really, where I went, they didn't really pay attention to us much.
Right.
So you could like shove, if your bun was tight enough, you could put rocks in your hair.
Really?
Yeah.
That's like some inmate shit right there. That's like some jail stuff.
I didn't realize that you could do that and maneuver the system until I went to treatment.
Right.
And then my mom came and saw me one time, and she's like, why do you look worse? And I was like, I'm great. And she's like, no, you're not.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was probably the biggest one. Because, and then after that, I had to do like an intense outpatient because that's what did it for me. I had to talk about feelings. I had to talk about all the different things in life. And then my second rock bottom was about, my daughter was 6.5 months old. I'll never forget this moment. So when I had my daughter, I went through a dark place between postpartum and then my eating disorder flaring back up. And so growing up, I always looked at my mom. She was always chasing this thing. She was always never happy enough with herself. She didn't love herself. She still doesn't. And so one day I was staring at myself in the mirror and like everything you could say negative about yourself, I was saying like, you need to lose weight. Who are you? Like your thighs are touching again. Like your saggy body, like you just had a kid. You need to go back to the gym immediately. Everything negative. I don't think I had one positive thing to say about myself. Mm-hmm. And my daughter like had grabbed my leg and she stood up and like looked at me. And like that moment then I was like, I am doing the exact same thing my mom did to me right now. And so that moment, I was like, I have to do this for her. I have to be somebody that loves themselves again. I have to be somebody that wakes up in the morning, and even though like like bad days happen, cool, okay, but like that doesn't mean you have a bad life. That doesn't mean you have a bad time. Mm-hmm. And so making sure that moment on, like I took every single step I had to show my daughter like it's okay to love yourself. Like you may not love every single part of yourself all the time, but that's okay. Like you're beautiful, you're strong in every single aspect of your life.
Right. So for I'm definitely not educated as far as it goes with eating disorders. I know from the things you've told me and stuff like that, and I'm sure people watching, they don't know either. So like in an eating disorder, I'm walking down somewhere and I see somebody that, who knows what they have going wrong with them. I automatically assume they must have an eating disorder because they're tremendously skinny. Like that's what I see. Inside the mind of somebody that has an eating disorder, like what do you think that is? Because obviously, I'm not sure now how you look at it, if it's a different view than it was back then, but I see somebody that's tremendously skinny or something like that. You, in that mind frame, what are you seeing in the mirror?
When I was like skinny?
When you were in active eating disorder?
Oh, I saw probably the biggest person in this world.
Really?
I saw all my flaws. So it's like...
I see all my flaws now, is that...
Do we need to talk? I never saw skinny me until I got out of my disorder. I never understood, honestly, how small I was until looking at previous photos now. When I looked in the mirror, I saw this like elephant. Like, I had so much weight to lose. I needed to fix everything. Like, I was never, that body dysmorphia was so real. It
Right.
was just night and day who I was and who I saw in the mirror.
Right. I'm sure, I know what it's like for alcohol and drug addiction and stuff like that, but you have a bunch of people who are not addicts or not alcoholics that are sitting there, regular people sitting there trying to tell me what I need to do, like, oh, just stop.
Yeah.
So I imagine you got quite a bit of like, you need to eat more or something like that. What was your reaction when you would get that stuff?
So
Is it just kind of like a fuck you in the back of your head, or?
yeah, so a lot of the times no one really, so essentially like when you're in active eating disorder and restricting, your brain is like on fire. Like, it's just like, I always like to envision like there's an episode of SpongeBob where like they're in his head and like papers are flying everywhere and everything's on fire. That's literally how I like explain eating disorder. Anytime so the holidays would be super hard for me. Any holiday, any food, because my mom didn't understand. She
Right.
was like my biggest one. She's like, Taylor, just eat the food. I'm like, I physically can't
Right.
just eat the food.
Right.
Like, it doesn't happen that way. And she's like, yes, you can. You put it in your mouth and you just chew it. And I'm like, I wish it was that easy.
Right. When you're, I don't mean to interrupt, but
Yeah.
when you're in that, do you have an appetite? Are you hungry and you're just telling yourself you can't eat it, or you're not even hungry?
It depends the day.
Okay.
So for the longest, you just don't have an appetite because it's like your body like is on fire. And so it's like you get this high almost from being hungry.
Okay.
And your body is just constantly like, yeah, this is great. Like,
Because you think you're burning the fat.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And so that's why, and about every 3 days, like I was saying, that oats and honey bar, I ate it because I would get kind of like lightheaded. But I knew there was like 22 grams of carbs, like 4 grams of fat, and some protein. I was like, oh, I'm set for the next 3 days. Like, this is good.
Right.
And so it's like I gave myself just enough to like check a box,
Yeah.
and then I'm good.
Right. And I only know this from the running, from all the running that I was doing, but I didn't understand nutrition or anything yet. And so, I was trying to do intermittent fasting, and I'm running and I'm doing all this stuff, and I had no idea, and I would have to imagine people in their eating disorder don't understand the science behind it or whatever, but that your body goes into fat storage mode and is eating away at your muscle, right? And so why is that not out, like, why is that not mainstream? Why does everybody not know that? Especially like within the eating disorder community. Like, I've watched you work with clients that are currently suffering from eating disorders, and your biggest thing is you have to eat. You're telling them they have to eat more to support what they're doing in the gym, or getting them to understand that. But why does everybody not know this?
It's because you don't want to hear it. You just don't want to hear
You
it.
just tune it out.
Yeah. No matter what you say, like my dietitian, she was super smart. I loved her to death, but she wasn't relatable for me. So she would just like force this down my throat, and I hear you, but I don't care.
Right.
Like there comes a point like no matter what you say, because I know if I starve enough, it might store a little bit, but I'll get to my goal at the end. And that means everything will just come off.
Right.
Even if that obviously meant destroying my kidneys in the process.
So you come out of it, and you had that rock bottom moment where you decided you needed to change, and you started taking the necessary steps. And through your whole journey, or do you have a moment where you would say is like your defining moment of redemption, where like in your head it connected, it's like, I'm back, I've made it, I'm who I need to be now, I'm who I'm supposed to have been this whole time?
I would say like there's like in 2 of them, because I've had 2 rock bottoms. So right before my senior year of college is when it happened again. I had just gotten like a certificate from this like intensive program I did, and for once, so what I thought back then, I was like, wow, I feel I had meat on my bones again, like everyone was telling me how good I looked, and like that moment then, I felt like I had a control again over my life, because for the longest, I didn't have control with my dad, I didn't have control with my mom, I didn't have control with anything. My ex was like super toxic and abusive to me, And so for once, like, I had control of my eating disorder, and my eating disorder didn't have control on me. And so, like, that moment then was, like, a huge, like, I did it. And then, like, the second time I'd say was when I was honestly on the stage for my bodybuilding show. When I was on that stage, it's like everything that I had been through felt, I did it. Like, I did it. Like, I did this process right. Like, I ate, and I weigh the most, and I'm muscular. And, like, in my mind, when I was in my eating disorder, that's all I wanted, was to just be muscular and love myself. And, like, in that moment, like, younger me finally felt safe.
Right.
Younger me finally felt like I could let her be, and, like, stop letting her, like, know, hey, I might come back to you. Everything's going to be okay. But I could finally put younger me to, like, sleep.
Right.
And I finally had control again. Like, I knew I had control again over my relationship with my dad. I had control over the relationship with my mother. I can control relationship with food again. Like, I looked at food in such a positive, uplifting way, because I know for once it's like what you were saying, like, it does what it does for my muscles, not for, like, storing and all the things.
Right.
So for once, like, being on that stage, I did something for me,
Right.
in all aspects.
Right. You're giving me goosebumps, because I was lucky enough to be there for your show, and I remember we traveled down to Belton, and just knowing your entire journey and story, and watching you work out every day, and watch you do your cardio, watching you come out to eat, and you bust out your own little food, and you're not eating what everybody else is eating. I know what you put into that, and it was emotional for me. I remember tearing up and running over to you when you'd come off stage. You know what I mean? I'm so thankful that I was there to witness that moment, and for you to now say that, that's what I had to imagine was going to be your redemption moment. And so it's just, I feel blessed to have been a part of it.
Yeah, and, like, to that, thanks for, like, believing in me. Because, like, I was like, I've kind of told you before, I've never had a good relationship with men. And, like, ever since I was, like, a teen. And so, like, meeting you was the first time, like, I felt safe almost with a man. Someone that, like, I knew could kind of check me, but was checking me in, like, a healthy way.
Right.
And someone that I could, like, go to and talk to in a supportive manner, and know that it's, like, from, like, a brotherly aspect versus, like, a control aspect.
Right.
So, like, just being a part and being that person that you've always been for me, like, it's been tremendous for me.
Thank you. Oh, you're gonna make me cry. Just from, like I said at the beginning when I met you, like, you're an all-in type person. I'm an all-in type person. Doesn't matter if it's shooting heroin, doesn't matter if it's running, lifting weights in the gym. Like, when I find something, I latch onto it, I'm all in on it. Mm-hmm. And I saw you do that, and I don't see that in many people, you know what I mean? It's not any fault of their own, it's just a natural character trait. Mm-hmm. And so someone like that, because I know what it means to me, so I know what it meant to you, so I'm honored to be any part of your journey, Taylor. What would you say for your entire journey? I'm sure there's been a lot of learning lessons, but right now, sitting here today, what would you say so far in life has been your most valuable lesson that you've learned?
Oh, golly. Most valuable. To be honest, to learn to love myself. That's because for so long I chased men, to be honest. Mm-hmm. I chased men to try to fill this void that I was constantly ever loving chasing, because I never felt like I'd love myself until, like, a man loved me. Mm-hmm. And so when I went finally back to therapy and, like, did a lot of steps I needed to realize, like, it's you and you at the end of the day.
Yep. You
have nobody else. And so if you don't love who you are, no one's going to really love you like that, because you have to learn to love yourself.
Yeah.
I had to learn to romanticize to my own life. Like, stop expecting someone to, like, you want to go do a date? You want to go get coffee? I had to do that. Like, if I wanted that, like, okay, I'm going to take myself on a date. I'm going to take myself and get coffee. Like, treating myself with so much more love and respect, and, like, built so much self-confidence. Mm-hmm. And then building that self-confidence, I realized, like, I don't need a man to do life with. Like, I'm a single parent, and, like, I think it's so powerful, to be honest, that, like, I don't feel like I need to rely on a man anymore. Like, mm-hmm. I can do what I need to do at the end of the day and the beginning of each day. Right. For once.
Yeah. No, I learned the exact same lesson. I take a look at my prior relationships and see where they went bad. And honestly, it's I think it comes from for me, it was a place of insecurity and like feeling like you need somebody or just wanting to be in that relationship so bad, and it makes you make decisions and say things out of insecurity. And honestly, the gym, I attribute so much of my life to the gym. I know you do too.
Yeah.
But that right there is what gave me my confidence to, I tell people a lot of times when I speak, running got me back to being who I needed to be from addiction. But I still didn't have that confidence. I didn't have a confidence to stand in front of a couple hundred people and speak or, do any of the stuff that I do nowadays. And getting back in the gym and understanding and seeing, like, people might not like it, but you're looked at different when you walk into a room.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you grab people's attention, whatever it is. Because I think if people see that in you and they see, like, oh, this person spends a lot of time in the gym or whatever, they see the dedication it takes, they know the discipline that it takes, and I think they interact with you in a much different way. So
yeah,
I've learned that exact same lesson, so that's great.
Yeah, and I've also learned too, like with that, when you carry yourself different, like when you start loving yourself, you carry yourself like with higher shoulders, like more like you're just more confident.
Yeah.
And so you glow a different way versus like insecure you, like you're just like this little like gray person, I like to always say.
Right.
So you're like wanting to be in the shadows, and so it's like you're not as I don't know, like light.
Right.
Yeah.
I can't speak for anybody else. I can only speak for myself, but I think about myself before I'd ever gotten into fitness or taking care of myself and stuff like that, and like just thinking about my mindset of my alarm going off and I hit the alarm 4 or 5 times, I can't get up out of bed, I'm groggy throughout the day. Think about that person walking into a room, and then think about somebody who, I'm up before my alarm, I'm at the gym, I do that. It's just a whole different mindset to walk up. Like, I know I've already started accomplishing stuff in the day as soon as I wake up. Me personally, like, I hit the snooze button, I'm already taking a loss. You know what I mean, for the day, so.
But you also wake up at 2 a.m.
It's my thing. People ask me what time I wake. They're like, "Oh, you get up early? What time?" And I don't want to tell them because number one, they're gonna think I'm lying or something. But I don't know. It's just that's my time. I get up. I have an hour or two to make my food for the day, get my clothes ready. I'm at the gym before it opens. Like, I'm there.
Bless your heart.
It's just my thing. I spent so much time on the other end of the spectrum staying up until that time. Now it's like I get up at that time. And I told somebody recently, I said, they were sitting there and they were talking shit back and forth. And I was like, hey man, I was like, I accomplished more in my day, I accomplished more before you get up out of bed than most people do in their whole day. And he's like, yeah, but I accomplished all the same stuff after you go to bed. And I was like, all right, valid point. So, let's say there's somebody watching this, somebody listening out there, and they're currently struggling through some of the same things that you've struggled with. Let's say it's eating disorder or insecurity or, being a single mom or something like that. What advice would you give that person if they were listening?
Oh, golly. Find your tribe. Find people that truly want the best for you. And you have to let go of the things that no longer serve you. Because once you free those things that weigh you down, it makes you feel like a new person. As much as it's hard, and it's super hard because that's what you know, that's what you're used to, that's what you're comfortable with. But you have to like lean now towards a new village, a new life that you want to create. Find people, find professionals too. Like if you're in the eating disorder and you feel lost, find a professional. Somebody that you feel comfortable with too, even if it's like your best friend. I need help. Like, ask somebody for help.
Right. I think so many people, there's a stigma. There's a stigma around eating disorders. There's a stigma around addiction, mental health, so many things. And I think there's a stigma. It's because like people, us as addicts, we're super used to talking about our stuff. Most of us are super open about it. I have no qualms saying I was a heroin addict or anything like that. But families or people that aren't necessarily in the recovery community or whatever it is, they don't talk about it. And so there's this stigma with it. And so getting people to actually speak up, because oftentimes you say something that somebody else needs to hear.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So if you're open about your stuff, you have no idea how many times I've said it might not even have been my main point. It might have been like an off comment or
Yeah.
whatever, and then somebody from the crowd will come up and start talking to me, and they're like, oh, I really needed to hear that. It was like, I almost forgot I said that. Like,
Oh, wow. Yeah.
so like getting up and opening up, and I think the more people, they get on platforms or podcasts and stuff like that, and as this world, social media, stuff like that, the more vulnerable you get, the more you talk about it. I think that's the only way to ever break that stigma and actually get it to where people start seeing some progress with this type of things.
Yeah, I mean, most definitely.
So what are you working on now? What do you got going on?
In life?
Didn't you just start your own company?
I did. Yeah, so I just started my own business about 2 weeks ago. It's like an online fitness nutrition, but like it actually gets to emphasize with like eating disorder help. That's something like, again, in my journey, I always needed someone relatable to me. I always needed somebody to understand my feelings and not just what the book said. And so I wanted to make sure that this company that I built was relatable to other people suffering. So it's like basically, it's called Live Fierce. And like the name of it actually came from my eating disorder.
Oh, really?
Yes. So in my disorder, something I always wanted to do was to be this fierce version. I always used to look up to Wonder Woman. I just thought she was this badass superhero. And I was like, how is she just so fierce? Like, how is she so happy and confident? And what is she doing? Like, I want to be fierce. But like, I never felt like I could be fierce. Like, I never felt like I could be this She-Hulk. And I was like, I just want that. And so I constantly chased that. And especially after having my daughter, I was like, I want to be this fierce version of myself that is undeniably loving and undeniably like that self-confidence is just through the roof. And so Live Fierce, I want to like help people live that fierce life, live that life that they want to be, but they just don't know how to start.
Right.
Because I feel like every person deserves that feeling of like, I have control of my life again, especially the single parents too, the single moms or the stay-at-home moms that are very stuck in like their house and they lose themselves. Like becoming a parent, you lose yourself in some manner. And so like trying to recreate yourself as you again and living a fierce life for you.
Right. I love that.
Yeah.
What so is it going to be in-person, virtual sessions?
So
what are you doing?
it's basically kind of like all online.
Okay.
Ideally, I would like to move it to in-person eventually. So nutrition sessions can be in person if it's like needed. But most of it is like I have my own app and my whole program. And each program is geared towards you. So like I do no cookie cutter meal plans. We do like a sit down consultation and I meet you where you are at and what your goal is and the ways that I can help meet that goal.
Love it. Love it. I can't wait. Hopefully at some point in this, I would love if you're good with it, I would love to have a thumbnail or maybe at some portion in this podcast on the video, it pops up with your before and after pictures.
Yeah.
It is one of the most, to me, it was one of the most drastic. I can't believe the human that you were and then who you are now today.
Yeah.
You brought up Wonder Woman and that reminds me of a good question. Who would you say, who are your inspirations? It could be somebody you know personally, somebody you see on social media or in a movie or like that, but who do you draw inspiration from? Professional bodybuilder, you name it.
An inspiration. So to be honest, a big inspiration, my sister's watching, is my sister. My sister has gone through hell and back with me. In my disorder, I think I pushed her away the most because she cared the most. And so I'm like, you care too much, like I can't. But my sister has always been like this loving person, like to everyone that she comes across. Like we like obviously butt heads, but she loves people through and through, no matter like what happens in their life. And she's always been an inspiration to me. Like she does everything. Like she is the rock of our family for sure. And like I don't know how she does it, because bless her heart, because our family is rough. But yeah, I owe her everything to this world.
I'm glad you picked her. I have the pleasure of knowing your sister too, and it's funny. People watching wouldn't know this, but she's actually the bulldog of the family, or the pit bull of the family. And your sister has a much softer approach and stuff like that.
Yeah, she's the gentle soul.
Right. You guys are kind of like yin and yang.
Yeah.
So I can see where you can clash, but I've watched her be there for every step of the way, and it's a pleasure knowing her too.
Yeah, I'm so thankful for her.
Right? Good. So I want to play a little game with you.
Uh-oh.
So I'm gonna read off some terms, and I just want you to give me first word that comes to mind.
Terms?
All right? Yep, terms.
Okay.
Just words.
Okay.
All right. First word that comes to your mind. Cardio.
No.
Perfect. All right. Number 2, ice cream.
I'm lactose intolerant.
Number 3, family.
Everything.
Everything. Number 4, bodybuilding.
Fuck yeah.
Let's go. Number 5, vegetables.
Broccoli.
Number 6, CrossFit.
No. Also no.
All right. Number 7, politics.
Rather not.
All right. Number 8, kettlebells.
Rather not.
Number 9, music.
R&B.
R&B.
90s.
90s. Who's your favorite?
Oh God.
What's your go ahead.
Let me think about that.
All right.
I don't have a favorite. I like them all.
All right. Let me ask you, if you were in the UFC and you're walking out for the title fight, what's your fight song?
I've never thought about that. I
No?
don't know.
What are you listening to in the gym?
Sometimes nothing.
Okay.
Depends if I'm on my sad girl shit and sad music.
All right. Are you listening to sad girl shit in the gym?
Oh, sometimes, yeah.
Really?
Sometimes you need some sad girl shit.
Okay.
Let me get back to that one too.
All right. Last but not least, number 10, woman.
Badass.
I like it. Taylor, that was absolutely amazing. Thank you for coming on here. Thank you for being vulnerable. I don't think you realize how many people you help just by being able to share your story and your experience. As I said before, I'm so proud to call you a friend. I'm so proud to have been part of your journey. I absolutely love you, and I will always be there for you.
Thank you for everything.
What's your you got an Instagram handle you want to throw out, a website, anything like that?
Websites in the making.
Okay.
I'm learning to be a graphic designer.
Oh.
My Instagram is @fitmama.tay.
All right, perfect. give her a follow. Check out her progress and show her some support. So the podcast is called I Am Redemption, right? And obviously, redemption is a word in the title of the documentary. But that word, like when I hear it, it catches me. To me, it's a very powerful word. And so, so many words I think describe us as people. And, at the end of the day, I am redemption. I know what I've been through. I know I've come out on the other side. I know I use it to help people. So if you would, why don't you go ahead and look at the people at home, take a look into the camera and tell them who you are.
Okay. I am mom. I am anorexia nervosa.